Do you ever wonder about the quiet ones among us? The ones who move through life with a humble demeanor, eyes downcast, hands calloused, seemingly invisible to the world's grand parade? What if the person you barely notice, the one you dismiss with a fleeting glance, holds a universe of untapped potential, a silent power that could one day shake the very ground beneath your feet? This is the story of Maria Engel, a woman who knew the weight of being overlooked, yet carried a secret strength that would redefine not just her own destiny, but the very meaning of respect for those who dared to underestimate her. Maria, at 35, was a florist in the heart of Munich, her small shop a riot of color and fragrance, a stark contrast to the quiet solitude she often felt within. Her hands, though adept at coaxing beauty from blossoms, were also strong, capable hands that had built a life from scraps. She was known for her exquisite arrangements, the way she could weave emotion into every petal, but beyond the fragrant facade of her daily life, Maria held a secret, a quiet ambition that pulsed beneath the surface of her unassuming existence. Life for Maria had always been a series of small, hard-won victories. Her parents, simple laborers, had instilled in her a deep work ethic and a profound sense of self-reliance. Virtues often mistaken for a lack of ambition by those who equated success solely with loud declarations and flashy displays. Maria lived modestly, dressed plainly, and spoke softly, a combination that made her easily forgettable in a world that clamored for attention. But beneath that quiet exterior lay a mind sharper than many realized, a keen understanding of numbers, and a patience that few possessed. She observed, she learned, she planned, all while meticulously arranging gladioli and lilies. The wedding of her brother, Stefan, to Alara von Kessel was to be the social event of the season, a glittering affair that promised to unite old money with new aspirations. Maria, as Stefan's only sister, had naturally assumed her place would be at his side, a quiet witness to his happiness. She had even begun to sketch ideas for the floral arrangements, imagining cascades of white roses and delicate gypsophila. But Alara, Stefan's fiancée, was a woman carved from a different cloth altogether. Her elegance was sharp, her social climbing relentless, her disdain for anything less than perfection palpable. Ilara saw Maria not as family, but as an embarrassing footnote, a smudge on the pristine canvas of her grand design. The invitation, when it finally arrived, felt like a cruel joke, an embossed piece of paper that confirmed her worst fears. Not an invitation to celebrate, but a curt, almost dismissive note, delivered by Ilara's assistant, instructing Maria that her presence would, unfortunately, be unnecessary at the main ceremony and reception. The reason cited was vague, something about managing guest lists for intimate family moments, but the underlying message was brutally clear. Maria was not good enough. Maria remembered the sting, sharp and immediate, a humiliation that settled deep in her bones. She recalled the haughty tilt of Ilara's head, the way her eyes, like shards of ice, would sweep over Maria as if she were dust, always dismissing, always judging. Ilara saw only a florist, a purveyor of fleeting beauty, someone who belonged in the background, not mingling with her esteemed guests. Maria, in that moment, felt the familiar weight of invisibility, the burden of being perpetually underestimated. Yet, instead of breaking her, the slight ignited a different kind of fire within her, a silent, unyielding resolve. She folded the note carefully, her hands steady despite the tremor in her heart, and placed it on her work table amidst the vibrant petals. The humiliation was a crucible, forging a resolve as unyielding as iron. What Ilara, and indeed Maria's own brother, did not know, could not even fathom, was that Maria was not just a florist. For years, every spare euro, every extra hour of work, every calculated risk had been poured into a venture far grander than anyone could imagine. She had quietly, meticulously, become a silent investor, a force in the very real estate market that housed the dreams of Munich's elite. And the venue Alara had chosen for her lavish, meticulously planned wedding, the very heart of her grand display of status and wealth, the magnificent Gilded Rose estate, was now in part Maria's. The seed of opportunity was sown years before, in the quiet hours after her flower shop closed, when Maria pored over financial reports instead of floral catalogs. Her parents, frugal and hardworking, had left her a small inheritance, a sum most people would have used for a down payment on a modest apartment or a long-dreamed-of holiday. But Maria, with a foresight few possessed, saw it as a foundational stone. She remembered the early days, the skepticism from the single financial advisor she dared to consult, who saw only a florist with naive ambitions. But Maria's quiet persistence, her uncanny ability to understand market trends and identify undervalued assets, slowly began to yield results. She invested cautiously, learning from every small gain, every minor setback. She read every financial journal, attended every free online seminar, transforming herself from a flower whisperer into a silent titan of finance. Her passion wasn't for grand displays of wealth, but for the quiet satisfaction of building something, creating value where others saw only decay. The Gilded Rose, an opulent, centuries-old estate known for its stunning architecture and sprawling gardens, had fallen on hard times. It was a local landmark, steeped in history, but crippled by mounting debts and the neglect of its aging, disillusioned owner, Herr Schmidt. Maria had always admired the estate, often walking past its imposing gates, imagining the stories held within its ivy-clad walls. She saw past the peeling paint and the overgrown hedges, glimpsing the potential, the inherent value that lay dormant. One rainy afternoon, she saw a "for sale" sign, barely visible amidst the weeds. Most saw a distressed asset, a money pit. Maria saw an opportunity. She researched, she calculated, she approached Herr Schmidt not as a buyer, but as someone who truly appreciated the legacy he had built. Herr Schmidt, a man with weary eyes and a heart heavy with the burden of his failing legacy, was initially wary of the quiet florist who spoke not of quick profits but of preservation and careful stewardship. He had seen many opportunistic investors, but Maria was different. She spoke with a quiet reverence for the estate, an understanding that went beyond mere numbers. She presented a meticulously researched plan, a pathway to revitalization that honored the past while securing the future. Her proposition was not a hostile takeover, but a partnership, a silent investment that would provide the much-needed capital without stripping Schmidt of his dignity or his remaining shares. He saw in her not just a shrewd mind, but a genuine spirit, someone who truly valued the Gilded Rose beyond its financial metrics. This was the moment Maria stepped from the shadows of her florist shop into the unseen corridors of high finance. She became a silent partner, a significant investor who believed in the estate's hidden potential, a true catalyst for its rebirth. The quiet work became Maria's second life. While she continued to arrange bouquets by day, her nights were spent immersed in spreadsheets, financial projections, and strategic planning for the Gilded Rose. She worked tirelessly, often falling asleep with a laptop open on her chest, her mind still buzzing with figures and forecasts. She made sacrifices, foregoing personal luxuries, pouring every spare cent into the restoration project. Her clothes remained simple, her outings rare, her world narrowed to the fragrant embrace of her flowers and the quiet hum of her financial endeavors. She collaborated closely, albeit discreetly, with Herr Schmidt and the new, streamlined management team they put in place. Maria's insights, often delivered in her unassuming, gentle voice, proved invaluable. She had an uncanny knack for identifying inefficiencies, for spotting trends, for understanding the psychology of the high-end event market. Under her quiet guidance and substantial financial backing, the Gilded Rose began to bloom anew. Its grand ballrooms were meticulously restored, its gardens lovingly manicured, its reputation soaring as a premier wedding and event venue. The estate, once on the brink of collapse, was now a beacon of luxury and elegance, a testament to silent dedication and astute foresight. And through it all, Maria remained in the background, a ghost in the machine, her name mentioned only in hushed tones among the financial elite who knew the true story behind the Gilded Rose's miraculous turnaround. She never sought credit, never craved the spotlight. Her satisfaction came from seeing the tangible results of her efforts, the beauty she had helped cultivate, the lives she had indirectly touched by preserving a local treasure. The decision to place her name, or rather the name of her holding company, M. Engel Holdings, on the newly commissioned ownership plaque in the Grand Foyer was Herr Schmidt's idea. He insisted on it, a quiet tribute to the woman who had truly saved his beloved estate. Maria, ever humble, had initially resisted, preferring to remain in the shadows. But Schmidt had argued that it was a matter of principle, a recognition of true stewardship. True value, Maria, he had said, his eyes twinkling, deserves to be seen, even if it prefers to remain humble. The plaque was ordered, discreetly crafted from polished brass, ready to be installed just weeks before the highly anticipated Kessel-Engel wedding. The irony was not lost on Maria. The very place where her brother and his disdainful fiancé sought to celebrate their union was a monument to her quiet triumph. The build-up to the wedding was a symphony of oblivious excitement for Maria's family, and a slow-burning tension for Maria herself. Her mother, still heartbroken by Maria's exclusion, would call frequently, lamenting the shame of Elara's behavior, unknowingly weaving a tapestry of dramatic irony around Maria's quiet world. Stefan, Maria's brother, seemed genuinely oblivious to the depth of Elara's snub, perhaps choosing willful ignorance over confronting his fiancée's snobbery. He would occasionally mention the magnificent gilded rose, oblivious that his sister was one of its primary benefactors. Elara, meanwhile, continued her relentless pursuit of perfection. Her social media was awash with designer dress fittings, elaborate menu tastings, and lavish floral discussions, all centered around the Gilded Rose. Her posts reeked of smug superiority, thinly veiled boasts about the exclusivity of her chosen venue. Only the best for our special day. She would caption her photos, unaware that the best was intrinsically linked to the very person she had so cruelly cast aside. Maria watched from a distance, her heart a complex mix of emotions. There was a quiet hurt, a lingering sting from Elara's dismissal, but there was also a strange, almost surreal sense of anticipation. She knew the day would come, the moment of revelation, when the meticulously constructed facade of Elara's superiority would crack. She found herself imagining the scene, not with malice, but with a detached curiosity, wondering how the grand charade would ultimately play out. Would Elara even notice the plaque? Would anyone connect Monsieur Engel Holdings to the humble florist? The tension was a low hum beneath her skin, a quiet drumbeat leading to the inevitable crescendo. She never considered exposing her secret before the wedding. That was not her way. Her strength lay in her quiet dignity, in allowing truth to reveal itself in its own time. The world would see what it saw, when it was ready to see it. Maria simply continued her daily life, arranging flowers, tending to her shop, while in the background, the Gilded Rose shimmered under her silent patronage, awaiting its moment to reveal the hidden truth. The day arrived with a flourish of sunshine and the gentle chime of distant church bells, a day that promised joyous celebration for some and an unforeseen reckoning for others. The Gilded Rose, bathed in the morning light, truly lived up to its name. Its newly polished brass gleamed, its refurbished stone facade stood majestically, and its sprawling gardens, in full bloom, were a testament to the quiet transformation Maria had orchestrated. Inside, a symphony orchestra tuned its instruments, crystal chandeliers sparkled, and an army of caterers bustled, preparing a feast fit for royalty. Guests began to arrive, a parade of Munich's elite, dressed in their finest, their faces alight with anticipation. Luxury cars glided up the winding driveway, depositing elegantly dressed women in flowing gowns and men in impeccably tailored suits. Elara, radiant in her elaborate bridal gown, was already in the bridal suite, surrounded by her retinue of bridesmaids, her face a mask of serene perfection, oblivious to the quiet storm brewing beneath her feet. Stefan, handsome in his tuxedo, greeted early arrivals in the grand foyer, his smiles wide, his heart swelling with pride at the grandeur of the venue he had chosen. The air was thick with champagne and the faint scent of lilies, the very flowers Maria would have chosen ironically for her brother's joy. No one noticed the new plaque at first. It was discreet, elegant, situated just inside the main entrance, adjacent to the historical markers of the estate. The name, M. Engel Holdings, was unassuming, professional, easily mistaken for just another corporate entity. But as more guests filtered in, milling about, admiring the opulent surroundings, a few discerning eyes began to register the unfamiliar inscription. A quiet murmur started, a ripple of curiosity. Monsieur Engel Holdings? A well-known lawyer whispered to his wife. That's a name I recognize from some recent, rather astute, acquisitions. Didn't they quietly take over a significant portion of the old Schmidt estate? His wife, a society columnist, frowned slightly, trying to place the name. The whispers grew, slowly, like a vine curling around a forgotten wall, drawing attention to the polished brass. Elara, oblivious in her bridal suite, believed she had orchestrated the perfect day, the perfect setting for her elevation into high society. She had cast aside Maria, the quiet florist, the humble sister-in-law, thinking her insignificant. But the very ground she stood upon, the very air she breathed, whispered Maria's name. The unveiling began not with a bang, but with a ripple, a slow dawning of recognition that spread through the assembled guests like an unexpected chill. As more people noticed the subtly placed, yet undeniably prominent, brass plaque by the entrance, murmurs turned to hushed conversations, then to outright confusion. Monsieur Engel Holdings? Is that new? A prominent industrialist asked his associate, peering through his spectacles. Indeed, the associate replied. Quite a shrewd operation. They're behind the Gilded Rose's incredible revival, you know. A silent partner, I heard. The name resonated in the polished hall, echoing with an unexpected weight. Maria Engel. Maria. The florist. But this Maria? It seemed impossible. Elara, finally emerging from the bridal suite, glided down the grand staircase, her train a cloud of ivory silk, her face a picture of triumphant bliss. She paused at the foot of the stairs, basking in the admiring glances, ready for her grand entrance into marital bliss. But the silence that greeted her was not one of awe, but of stunned disbelief. Guests weren't looking at her. Their gazes were fixed on the unassuming plaque. Elara, annoyed, followed their eyes. She read the inscription, "The Gilded Rose," under the stewardship of Monsieur Engel Holdings, and her brow furrowed. She knew nothing of any new holdings. Her meticulously planned event was being overshadowed by a plaque? A flicker of irritation crossed her perfect features. "What is everyone staring at?" she demanded, her voice a little sharper than intended. Then, a voice, clearer than the whispers, spoke from the crowd. "Isn't Maria Engel Stefan's sister?" The question hung in the air, a bell tolling. Alara's head snapped towards the speaker, a distant cousin she barely tolerated. "Maria? What on earth does she have to do with this? She's a florist, not a landowner." Her laugh was brittle, forced, designed to dismiss. But then Herr Schmidt, the original owner, now a dignified figure observing from the sidelines, stepped forward. He held a knowing smile. "Indeed, Maria Engel, the florist," he stated, his voice carrying clearly across the silent foyer. "The very one. It is her foresight, her unwavering belief, and her substantial investment that saved this magnificent estate. M. Engel Holdings is her enterprise. This place, the Gilded Rose, thrives because of Maria's quiet strength and remarkable vision." The words hit Elara like a physical blow. Her face, moments ago radiant, drained of all color. Her jaw dropped. "Maria? Her scorned, humble florist sister-in-law, the woman she had so casually uninvited, owned the very venue she stood in, the epitome of her social aspirations. The silence that followed was absolute, heavy with the weight of revelation. The orchestra, which had just begun a soft prelude, faltered and fell silent. The vows, they were never spoken. Not then, not amidst the stunned gasps and widening eyes of a wedding party utterly undone. The confrontation was immediate, raw, and utterly without grace. Alara, her face contorted in a mask of disbelief and incandescent fury, shrieked, "This is impossible. A florist, Maria, you lie, old man. This is some pathetic joke." Her voice, usually so carefully modulated, cracked with a hysterical edge. Stefan, Maria's brother, stood frozen, his eyes darting between Herr Schmidt and the plaque, then finally settling on the modest figure who had just emerged from the side entrance, quietly, almost imperceptibly, into the chaos. It was Maria. She wore a simple, elegant dark blue dress, understated yet impeccably tailored, a quiet antithesis to the glittering extravagance surrounding her. She carried no flowers, no grand accessories, just an air of calm dignity. Her gaze met Alara's, and for a moment the two women stood in silent opposition, the furious, exposed bride versus the quietly powerful catalyst. "Maria? What is this madness?" Stefan finally managed, his voice hoarse with shock. Maria stepped forward, her movement fluid and unhurried. Her eyes, usually soft, held a steady, unwavering light. "There is no madness, Stefan," she said, her voice clear and calm, cutting through Alara's choked gasps. "Only truth. Herr Schmidt speaks it plainly." Alara lunged forward, her pristine white gown dragging slightly on the polished floor. You planned this? This is your revenge, isn't it? To humiliate me, to ruin my day." Her finger, adorned with a massive diamond ring, shook as she pointed it at Maria. "You are nothing but a common florist. How could you possibly own a place like this?" Maria's expression remained serene, untouched by Alara's vitriol. "It is not revenge, Alara," she stated, her words measured, each one landing with quiet precision. "It is simply reality. You asked me to be absent today. I am simply abiding by your wishes, while also acknowledging my obligations as an investor and co-steward of this beautiful estate." Herr Schmidt stepped closer to Maria, a protective, respectful presence. "Ms. Maus, Engel's quiet genius saved the Gilded Rose," he declared, addressing the stunned assembly. Her vision, her astute financial leadership, and her unwavering belief in this place brought it back from ruin. She did not seek credit, she sought only to preserve beauty and potential. She is a woman of unparalleled integrity, a true visionary, and an inspiration to us all. The weight of his words, combined with Maria's calm demeanor, seemed to deflate Alara's fury into a simmering, impotent rage. Stefan, witnessing the undeniable truth and the dignity of his sister, felt a profound shame wash over him. He looked at Maria, truly looked at her, and saw not just a florist, but a woman of immense substance, a strength he had never bothered to perceive. The vows were not spoken, not today. The wedding was indeed over, before it had even truly begun, dismantled by the quiet revelation of unseen worth. The fallout and revelation ripped through the Kessel Engel wedding like a sudden, unexpected tempest. The joyous atmosphere evaporated, replaced by a palpable tension and a flurry of whispered conversations. Ilara, utterly exposed, stood trembling, her carefully constructed facade crumbling before everyone's eyes. Her bridesmaids looked at her with pity, her socialite friends with a mixture of shock and uncomfortable amusement. Her own parents, rigid with embarrassment, tried to usher her away from the scene, their faces a thundercloud of mortification. Stefan, finally finding his voice, stumbled towards Maria, his face etched with a mix of shock, shame, and belated admiration. "Maria," he whispered, I had no idea. How How could you keep this from me?" His voice was thick with regret. Maria turned to him, her expression soft, devoid of triumph or malice. "It was never a secret I felt compelled to share, Stefan," she replied, her gaze steady. "My worth, like the worth of this estate, was never dependent on public proclamation. It was a journey I took for myself, a quiet path. I wanted to build, not to boast." She paused, her eyes sweeping over the stunned faces of her family and the wedding guests. "But perhaps," she continued, her voice gaining a gentle resonance, "this day serves as a lesson that true value, true potential, is often hidden in plain sight. It resides not in the loudness of one's declarations, but in the quiet steadfastness of one's actions. It is found not in the labels others place upon us, but in the integrity of who we truly are." Her words, simple and direct, carried immense weight. They were not an accusation, but a profound statement of truth. People shifted uncomfortably, many realizing their own complicity in judging others based on superficial appearances. The juxtaposition of Maria, the unassuming florist, standing as the quiet owner of the magnificent gilded rose, against Alara, the grand bride now stripped of her pretense, was a powerful, unspoken sermon. Alara, unable to bear the public humiliation, finally broke down, fleeing the foyer with a strangled sob, her white gown a tragic flutter as she disappeared up the grand staircase. Her family followed, their faces tight with a mixture of anger and defeat. The wedding, in every sense, was called off. The guests, unsure what to do, began to disperse, some offering Maria hesitant, respectful nods, others simply slipping away into the bright afternoon. Stefan stayed, looking utterly lost. "I should have seen it, Maria," he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "I should have known your strength, your spirit. I let Ilara's narrow view blind me." Maria placed a gentle hand on his arm. "It is never too late to truly see, Stefan," she said. "The most valuable lessons are often learned when we are forced to confront our own misjudgments." The wedding was a shattered dream. But Maria's truth had finally shone through, illuminating not just her own remarkable journey, but the shadows of prejudice and superficiality that had long obscured it. Rebuilding and redefinition began immediately, though not in the way anyone had anticipated. The wedding party dispersed in disarray, leaving behind a silence heavier than any grand ceremony could have created. Ilara and her family left the Gilded Rose within the hour, a swift and ignominious retreat, their meticulously planned future now a shattered mosaic of humiliation. Maria's brother, Stefan, remained, a solitary figure amidst the remnants of a dream that was not his own. He approached Maria, his posture slumped, his eyes filled with a raw, undeniable regret. "Maria," he began, his voice rough with emotion, "I am so deeply sorry. For everything. For letting you be excluded, for not seeing you." Maria met his gaze, her expression one of quiet understanding, not condemnation. "The past is done, Stefan," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "What matters is what we learn from it, and how we choose to move forward." Her newfound status rippled through Munich society with astonishing speed. The story of Maria, the humble florist who secretly owned the Gilded Rose, became the talk of the town, a modern fable whispered in elegant salons and bustling markets alike. Overnight, Maria Engel transformed from an overlooked artisan into a respected businesswoman, a quiet legend. Her flower shop, once a charming but modest establishment, saw an influx of new clients, not just for her beautiful arrangements, but drawn by a curiosity to meet the woman behind the remarkable story. Business magnates sought her advice, local charities invited her to sit on their boards, and financial journalists clamored for interviews. Maria handled it all with characteristic humility and grace. She remained the same quiet, earnest woman, but now her quietness was seen not as timidity, but as strength, her humility not as weakness, but as wisdom. She spent more time at the Gilded Rose, not just as an investor, but as a guardian of its legacy. Her vision for the estate expanded beyond simply financial recovery. She initiated community outreach programs, supported local artists, and created apprenticeships for young people interested in event management. She was no longer just a silent partner, but an active, benevolent force, ensuring the Gilded Rose served as a beacon for more than just lavish weddings. Stefan, humbled and irrevocably changed, embarked on his own journey of redefinition. His engagement to Alara dissolved, a predictable casualty of her public disgrace and his newfound clarity. He spent weeks seeking out Maria, not for forgiveness, but for understanding, for guidance. Their bond, once distant and strained by Stefan's superficial world, slowly began to mend, forged anew in the crucible of shared truth and mutual respect. He began to see his sister not just as family, but as a mentor, a living embodiment of integrity and quiet power. Maria's story became a testament to the enduring power of true worth, a reminder that the most profound victories are often won, not with fanfare, but with quiet, unwavering resolve. The world had underestimated her, but Maria Engel, the hidden gem, had quietly redefined the meaning of success, demonstrating that the truest riches lie not in what one displays, but in what one builds with unseen hands and an unwavering heart. The moral and call to action resonated deeply within the city of Munich, becoming a story told and retold, a modern parable for our times. Maria, now recognized and celebrated, continued to live with the same quiet dignity that had always defined her. She used her newfound platform not for personal gain, but to amplify the message of inherent worth, the profound truth that potential often lies dormant beneath unassuming exteriors, waiting only for a chance to be seen. She would often say, in her characteristically understated manner, "The truest strength is not measured by the loudest voice, but by the quietest conviction. The deepest roots grow in silence, and it is those roots that allow a mighty tree to stand tall against any storm." Her impact was immeasurable. Her family, once quick to judge, became her staunchest advocates, their own values transformed by witnessing her journey. The community, once dismissive, now sought to emulate her principled approach to life and business. The Gilded Rose, under Maria's open, benevolent stewardship, became more than just an event venue. It transformed into a symbol of resilience, a monument to the power of overlooked dreams, a place where people were reminded that true beauty, like true value, often needs a moment of quiet revelation to be fully appreciated. And so we return to the question that began our journey. Do you ever wonder about the quiet ones among us? How often do we walk past someone, dismiss them with a glance, simply because they don't fit our preconceived notions of success or significance? How many silent giants, how many hidden gems do we encounter every single day, their extraordinary potential veiled by humility, by circumstances, or by our own limiting perceptions? Maria Engel's story is a powerful, heartfelt reminder that true worth is not loud, it is not boastful, and it certainly does not seek validation from the superficial judgments of others. It resides within, a quiet fire burning, waiting for the right moment to illuminate the world. So, the next time you encounter someone you might be tempted to overlook, pause, look deeper. Beyond the surface, beyond the label, beyond the quiet demeanor, because you never truly know the silent power, the hidden strength, the extraordinary truth that lies within the quiet ones. Share this story, not just as a tale of triumph, but as a living question. Who are you overlooking today, and what incredible truth might they be quietly holding, waiting for the world to finally see? Let Maria's journey inspire you to look beyond the obvious, to celebrate the unseen, and to remember that the most profound impacts are often made by the ones who choose to build their empires in silence.